Hello, this is George Pligoropoulos, and this is the ninth part of the quality series. And today we're talking about the stability. One issue that it's it's about long conversations. It's about marathon, and stability is about making a system testable and not not have their events that happening, for example, after many days, or have other factors that just do not allow you to test it. For example, um, third party applications that only work on production, etc. So basically, stability is to be in control of your own system. And the why spend extra time to make a system testable is about these three things: long-term cost savings, enhanced product quality, and faster release cycles. So yes, investing time. So this is about investing because you need to take extra effort, right? You don't if you don't make a system, if you don't care making a system testable, then you just make it based on the business requirements, and that's all. But you see here, the long run is the key. You need to share the vision with the rest of the company that for these particular components, and always is about priorities, a testable system is less prone to errors and easier to maintain. Um, and the testable systems lead to higher quality products. This comes out of experience. It's not super easy to show you how. Um, and if you have a testable system, and you can very quickly and easily test it, then this will result eventually to increased customer satisfaction and reputation of the company, because actually you have the issues are identified and resolved more quickly. So this is the key here, like, to have this, you want this kind of speed of identifying issues. You want to be able to say that let's bring the system in the same state that our customer who is having serious troubles currently is. So you have a customer that's in a particular system, sorry, in a particular state. So you want to bring this, like your testing environment, your staging environment, you want to bring into that same state. But how are you going to do this if it's not testable, if it's not configurable, right? Um, a well-tested system finally is more likely to have fewer issues, enable faster release cycles. And why the five shades of testability is because you can have various, um, like from no testability to fully testable system. And let's say how you're doing this. The pure black is like that. When you say meal equals pasta inside the code, and let's say, for example, this you cannot change it, right? Because the variables are hard coded. The pros here obviously is like there is zero effort from software engineers. Um, Zero software engineers. They were asked by business requirements to set currently the meal equals pasta, and it's gonna work. In the first iteration, it's gonna work. It's gonna be fine. The problem is when you want to change this, either because the business requirements changed, or because you want to test what happens in different cases, what happens when the middle equals an empty string, a null, etc. So no actions can be triggered here. If you want um, to trigger some action to see that you might not have immediately, um, you have zero control over your system. You cannot control anything. This is written inside the code. You need to do a pull request, for example, to change this. What happens in No, it's basically non-testable here. Every time business wants to experiment with other values, needs to apply for an RFC, do a Git commit. Like this is a huge pain, right? Imagine, for example, if this variable here wants to, the marketing wants to change it, just because marketing wants to play around with different values and see what works best for the customer and the end experience. This value might affect a lot of things in the system, for example. And so, what can you do as a next step? Let's say you don't want to have fully hard-coded variables. So the next step is to have the testability. Now is possible. It's difficult, and it's by changing the database values. So here you have something like that. You open an SQL editor. You need to have the appropriate credentials in the staging environment in order to access the database, connect to that, know the table, a lot of things that quality assurance engineers shouldn't know, should be out, not so close to the problem, but outside of it. But let's say that this allows you something, right? You have that the stability is possible, and you want, for example, to have but you want to set here to find the appropriate ID. You might not know the ID. You need to ask the developers in order to get the ID, in order to set, accordingly the values that you want for this, let's say, ID. So this is, we're implying here that there is a database table that actually stores values like this one, right? And so these are not stored inside the code, they're stored in the database. So here, testability possible, and little effort from the engineering team to make the value be read from a dedicated table. So every time here, they're gonna say, get meal from database table or something. Um, some validation of data is possible. This is also a pro because you can say in the database schema that this last name is always a string and not an integer, stuff like that. Still, you cannot trigger any actions. You have too much control to the system. Like imagine, like you can make mistakes, and then how you're gonna like any mistakes. It's not forgiving, right? If some junior quality assurance engineer does a mistake, the only way is to reset the database, for example, or something like that. You need to carefully write the correct SQL statement. So you have to be very careful there, right? Like writing code just to change one value, right? Because this is not your ideally quality assurance time is spent on investigating scenarios and having lots and lots of scenarios. And then you need and you have a slow process of updating and reading, the current state, because when you want to see, like imagine, okay, if you have all the values inside one table in particular, okay, maybe you can just do an SQL and see all the values there. If you have multiple tables, this becomes more tricky, but updating for sure is slow and very tricky to make a mistake. So dark gray, someone could say. But better than before, stability is now possible, even if it's hard. Now let's go to the gray area, the middle zone. The stability is possible via an environment variables file, which is not something. This is common. This is being used a lot. This is what I've heard. This is what I have experienced before in various software engineering companies. So you have an environment variables file like this one. You set like every value that you want to change. You basically just change it. Supposedly, it's kind of easier. to view the values, change the values. The system should respond after a refresh of the web page. Should respond immediately. This is the way it is meant to be working. So that the stability now is possible. A little effort from the engineering team to make the value be read from the environment variables. Again, some effort. Again, the software engineer will go here and say meal equals get environment variable with key that, and load this. All values are organized and accessed from one or a few files. This is a bit more organization. And in comparison with the previous method, obviously the update is very, very straightforward here, right? Um, in comparison with the previous method, no validation. So in the database schema, as we said, we can enforce the database schema to accept, for example, only date or integer or string or a float number. But in this approach here, you cannot. So whatever you write after the equal sign here is just accepted. Um, so again, no actions can be triggered. We're going to talk about the actions really soon. Sorry about this. Let's stay in the same slide. So one of the tricky parts here is that you don't need just credentials. Usually this file resides, as you see here, inside the code. So this file is to be protected and everything. Usually it's not so when someone is hearing the code, he wants to call this file, and usually this .env file is inside the code. Uh, so basically, you need some kind of SSH access because you need access to the code that is currently existing in any environment that you're using, like staging. Um, for example, in staging, you might have real customer data. You might not want to give everyone access to that. Um, so yeah, security issue here, like too much power in one file, right? Again, security here must be very careful because basically, if you have, if you can configure a lot of things from this file, then this .env file should be protected. Just nobody from the internet should have access to that. If somehow they get access, basically they can manipulate as the quality assurance engineer would do in order to make it testable. He would be benevolent in in his case. The other case, people from outside could be malicious, has have malicious intents. So let's make things a little bit better, right? Let's see if we have here time. Okay, we're good with time. So light gray, full testability via API calls. So these things start getting better. So you can have Postman here or anything, any other tool that can hit HTTP requests. And this is not bad because with some API calls you can actually manipulate the value. So basically, the API call will more conveniently and more safely will do this part. It will update some number, and the API call needs to be very straightforward. And here you have, I mean, finally you have like full control over the system, which is okay. Which is you can have here tokens in an API interface. You can set any kind of security measures that you need. Um, Actions can be triggered. So let's talk what we mean actions. Actions mean that, let's say that in production something happens periodically, something is checking periodically every day. But when you want to make it testable, you want to trigger this many times because you're going to go from one scenario to another very quickly. You don't want to wait one day for each scenario. Or you want, for example, to trigger an email notification that might be queued to be triggered normally after hours, because it doesn't really matter to for the email to live immediately in production, but for the QA engineers, it matters because they want again to go from one channel to another very quickly and give very quick feedback. And this is not only for QA engineers, for anyone who is testing the system actually. So the actions can be triggered. You can have indeed a post, let's say API call, and say that please um, trigger this action, send the emails, for example, and the QA engineer or whoever else is testing will receive the email in their inbox. So minimal external or internal security concerns. I mean, again, an API interface is known how to manage this from software engineering teams. Values can be fully validated. Again, here are the values. Not only restricted to what the database schema would offer, but anything your own, let's say, special regular expression to verify that some value that's passed here is a proper email or let's say a proper social security number or anything, right? You can fully validate this. Super. Let's go to the cons. The cons here is that some effort from engineering team, that now the little effort has become some effort because you might have new values in every release. Again, making this from engineering team is not super easy. Maintaining a Postman collection can be time consuming. Um, so yeah, this could be a con, and it needs some technical knowledge. Okay, I mean here in general, the QA engineer. I guess also the database has this con here that needs even more technical knowledge. But okay, maybe this is a minor con here for this case. But basically, you can set the values that you want in the system, and the system after a refresh of the web page or a refresh of the Android or iPhone app should work with a new value. And this is light gray. I mean, if you have done this, which I have seen this sometimes, um, yeah, this is going to work nicely. And the dream and what you have here, the pure white, the full and easy testability via user interface. So here now you have a user interface. There is settings. Let's say here, if you can see this, it's kind of small, but it says settings. You can have a user interface, and I can hear the software engineers cringing here. Um, but basically, here you have from a, like everything. I have seen this only once being implemented. It really helped everyone in the team, not just especially because it was a mobile environment. But anyway, apart from that, really, this was really beneficial because you could just someone could go to this again settings, which is kind of hidden and only appear in staging or testing environments, and have you can manipulate the application as much as you want. So you want to, for example, any notifications that appear to appear every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds. Someone can play, right? Someone can play and see for themselves. Um, and basically, here you have full and easy control over the system. And the easy here is the extra thing from the API. Actions can be triggered again. Minimal external or internal security concerns, as we have for the API. Values can be fully validated, as you did with the API. Equally here, you can even have error messages if you fancy, and make it super fast and easy to use by anyone. So, so now you can have the benefit of having the um, like the CEO, the CTO, the CFO, like any kind of manager, upper management or middle management or anyone from the team, technical or not technical, they can go in this interface that was originally built in order to make the system testable, but he can actually play with the application. Maybe he has his or her own dedicated environment, and he can, he can see how the application would behave if in production we would change the value in this or that. And this is very fast and easy. And it requires effort from the engineering team to make a system that automatically binds a value with the database table and automatically fills the form with the value. So what I'm expressing here is not is here I'm thinking about the concern of the software engineers cringing here, because they know that this is extra effort, right? Sorry for this. They know that the engineers know that this is extra effort, but the point is for this part not to be a difficult part. This needs to be super easy. I mean, from the moment that you specify inside the code, for example, or somehow that you specify that I want this field, this form should be, let's say, auto-populated. So this should be part of a framework that makes your life super, super easy. And we don't care about user experience here at all. Make it like the most simple checkbox, the most simple. We don't care. We don't care about colors. We don't care about anything. The only thing that people care here is to be able to any value of any kind of type, uh, date, value, string, integer, boolean here, the checkbox, a drop down, some fields, like specify them somewhere and have them immediately available here. And when this framework is in place, then it's going to be easy in every iteration to have this. And basically, and this is the five stages of shading. This is the pros and cons here summarized, and the mindset to adopt. Let's see if we're out of time. Okay, so the mindset here to adopt is that the adding a value in a user interface should be made super easy. As I just explained, it should be, if someone says, I want to go here, and this meal equals pasta, I want it to appear here, label meal, and here, the pasta value, or you can change to anything you want. For some developer, there should be a framework that will make this super easy and bind everything together and have this available in some kind of admin interface that might already exist. So this is the mindset, and if you have this, then you unlock a lot of potential. You unlock a lot of potential here. Um, so basically, that was it. Now, uh, you know, uh, having now heard about that, um, yeah, you might, like, you need to give it some thought. I'm not giving you the stories here, or what will happen, but think about it as you would think about Excel spreadsheets, right? In Excel spreadsheets, you put there your values, you put your formulas kind of easily, and then you play around with the values and see what happens. This is the same. We want the same here. Play around with the values, see what happens from all perspectives, from the stability perspective to test the edge cases, from a business perspective to see how the application behaves in different occasions. And basically this is it. Then many thanks. This was the five stages of testability, and this is George Pligoropoulos, and many thanks for watching this video today.